You're listening to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast, where we explore the connection between a fit body and positive mental health. And our big mission? It's to help 10,000 runners to develop fitter minds in the next 2 years. I'm your host, Michelle Frost. Let's get moving. Welcome to this episode of the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast. Today we talk to Patrick Salter, and Patrick tells us how he's only been running for 3 years and he started using the Couch to 5K app. But now he loves the trails and he's even raced in a 25K trail run. Enjoy. Today on Fit Mind, Fit Body, I am excited to introduce you all to Patrick Salter, who's someone who we have both just been, well, mostly me talking to Patrick, has been in my life, little bits of my life, just popping in and out of it the way some people do. So it's very excited for me to get back and talk to Patrick because I haven't talked to him for ages and I don't know that he was running the last time I spoke to him. So Patrick, welcome.
Thank you.
It is very exciting to have you here. As I said, it's a way for me to find out what's going on in your life and introduce you to all these people. Before we talk about your running, though, can we start with, where you grew up? Give us a little bit of your background.
Well, I'm a country town boy. I started off at a little place called Winnerlia.
Oh, wow.
And went to another tiny town called Bishopsburn when I was 3 years old.
Oh.
And then made the big shift to Bracknell, which is about 5 kilometres away, sort of when I was about 6.
Wow.
So I had my formative years at Bracknell until I was about 21, going to Bracknell Primary School and then Cressy High School, and then made the big move into Launceston in my early 20s.
The metropolis.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
So when you were at school, what was sport like for you?
I didn't enjoy sport at all when I was little. My dad had a bad experience where his dad had pushed him really hard, and so he pushed back against that, and therefore he never really wanted to be that sort of dad who pushed his own hard. So really I didn't do a lot, and what I did I wasn't great at. So I didn't get excited about that and didn't particularly want to do any outdoor things for a long time.
It sounds like all the little towns that you were in, they're very sort of country, outdoorsy sort of places. Did you find you were outdoors a lot? Anyway, like you may not have been doing organised sport, but
well, particularly at Bracknell, all of the young guys and girls, when if on weekends or after school or on holidays, then a lot of the time, particularly in summer holidays, then it'd be dashing down to the waterhole and going for a swim and on our bikes and doing that sort of stuff. So the days of where parents, maybe more so now, really want to know where kids are all the time, they were quite happy for us to head off at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning and expect that we'd turn up at meal times and not be fussed about that. Yeah. And we just had a great time.
I remember that. I remember those years.
Yes.
It's not like that at all now. It's interesting, isn't it? So as a result, you probably did a lot of, just running around, just kind of natural exercise that comes with being a child and outdoor sort of play and that kind of thing.
Yeah, a little bit of that, although I was probably more of an introverted sort of kid. So growing up in the 70s and 80s, I was more of when computers were just starting to sort of come in, I was a bit geeky like that. So sometimes I'd be happy to hide away just playing on my computer and just occasionally sneak out sort of and interact with people.
Oh, that's interesting. So, okay, you then went to university, I believe?
Yes, I went to university. I was at university for a long time because I wasn't particularly motivated when I was there. It was great at high school. Teachers kept me on task and disciplined. And then when I had to be self-disciplined, I didn't have any of that. So year 11 and 12 and university years went on for quite a while, just because I failed a heap of subjects, because I was more about just exploring things rather than working
Yeah.
there. So that took me quite a while, but they were interesting years for sure.
What did you study?
I did applied science, so IT.
Nothing too too easy. I would have thought that would be quite challenging.
Well, it was called computing way back then. People didn't say IT, but it was IT and human biology. And so that's the field that I ended up working in, or still work in now.
So what do you do now?
I do lung testing.
Yep.
So I became a respiratory scientist. And now I do some of that, some clinical work, but mostly I supervise and manage sort of the logistics of that in a private service.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Because it's kind of to do with like when people go do sport, lungs are really important.
Absolutely.
That whole breathing thing is one of the first things when people start running that they notice isn't working as well as they maybe thought it was. And when we don't run for a little while, that's one of the first things actually to improve, but one of the first things that we notice, that when you first start running, if you've had a little bit of time off, it's like, I can't breathe. And but then it gets better pretty quickly. You'd probably know why that is, being the scientist around those things.
Yeah, well, like you've just said, a lot of people ask the question, what can I do if we happen to get any sports people in, what can I do to improve? How can I make my lungs function better? All of those sorts of questions. But the reality is just get out there into it, sort of.
Is it like a muscle? Is it like a muscle? You use it and that will improve it? Is that how lungs work? I don't even know.
It's really about looking after what you've got mostly.
Okay.
So it's not quite like a muscle, but sometimes people who have some problems about managing best what they have, and the whole cardiovascular thing comes into it. So just plugging away, looking after yourself, and those other things are going to give somebody the best benefit.
Oh, that's interesting. So tell me, as an adult, when did you first start doing exercise for exercise's sake?
When I was in my late 40s. So for so many years, I got married and my wife was into bushwalking, and I didn't want a bar of any of that. Just didn't interest me. Again, the childhood thing where it just hadn't been a part of my experience.
Yeah.
But when I got to my late 40s, I thought, there's no exercise, no physical activity involved in my work. I don't want to cross the threshold into my 50s and just be a blob and have a slow decline into sedentary sort of living. So that was the impetus. I thought, I don't want to be that way, so I've got to do something different. So then exploring it with my wife, because we're both thinking along similar lines of what can we do to change this, and what are the options out there for us to get involved in something that involves people but involves improving our eating and improving exercise, so that we can stop that, we can reverse that, and we can actually enter into older life feeling much more comfortable and healthier. So we had to weigh up a few different things.
I heard something not that long ago, which I thought was really good in reference to this, and that was that if we don't get comfortable with being uncomfortable in our, I was going to say 20s and 30s, but really for us, it's like the 40s and 50s, then we need to get comfortable with the idea that we'll be very uncomfortable, in our 60s and 70s, because our bodies are not, even just doing normal things would be uncomfortable if we don't have a body that we've looked after a little bit, or that we've got a bit fitter. That's, I guess, another way to talk about what you guys were, why you started getting fitter.
yeah, maybe it was a little bit of a midlife crisis or something or other. Although I didn't realistically expect I'd live to 98, but
What?
at 49. But nevertheless, we came across a number of people who were inspiring for us around that time as well. They were just coming out of the woodwork, and we thought, yeah, we can probably do this.
Oh, wow. And what kind of, when you say inspiring, what inspired you about these people?
Well, we saw people that we had known from the past,
Mhm.
and they were looking good. They were outdoors and
Mhm.
and appeared to be enjoying themselves in doing that. And it gave us the sense of this could be achievable for us
Mhm.
as well. That we saw attributes in them that we thought we'd like to take that on ourselves.
You wanted to adopt them.
Yes.
Not them, but their the things that they were doing.
Well, that's right, and all the benefits that they seem to be enjoying. They look like they were having fun out there doing it.
So what sort of things did you guys start? How did you, because that's often the hardest thing, isn't it? It's like, okay, I know I want to get fitter. I can see some people that I know have got fitter and they're obviously happy and healthy and enjoying life. How did you make the decision about what to do, and what did you do?
Well, I'm used to doing computer stuff, so the first thing was Google. So, and we found this app called Couch to 5K.
Yeah.
So
That's wow.
and cool. we both downloaded that, and we thought, I couldn't envisage ever the thought of running 5Ks without stopping. But this broke it down into little chunks, and the gradual increase from people who were not used to that level of exercise, and gradually increasing until we got to that point of where we could run 5Ks without a stop. But it was breaking it down. So we found something that met us where we were at.
Yeah.
Didn't presume anything. Or maybe it just presumed that we were starting at a low level, and took us to that point where we thought, yeah, we've got through that stage, and now we're prepared to have a crack at something a bit more.
Why do you think it was running that you chose?
I know that's a good question, because I never thought that was it. I guess it meant that I didn't have to invest in gym membership. It meant I didn't have to worry about buying the expensive equipment. It also meant that there could be a lot of other people around me who were doing similar things as well. So it was just something easy to grab and make a start, where I didn't have to worry about gathering all these other implements to make it work. I could actually do it just with me.
And you kind of didn't need to learn a new skill so much. I mean, I know that there is some things that you pick up, but you need. I mean, we can all run if we have to catch a bus, or so we can all run, to mostly, and it's also very accessible. I think all those things that you talked about on lots of levels demonstrate its accessibility, I guess, just to
Indeed
put all of that into one word. Okay, so you got to the state of running 5Ks. How have you kept running? Because it's one thing to achieve a goal like that, and it's another thing for it to become, I assume it's become a part of your lifestyle now.
It has. Well, one of the biggest parts was discovering all of these running groups that were around Launceston. And as soon as we started looking, there's a huge number.
I know, it's crazy.
that we never knew that existed before, really, just because we were blinkered in that.
Exactly.
So the first one, and probably the great entry level into running, was Park Run.
Yeah.
And so we were a little nervous when we went to our first Park Run, but a key thing about that was when we arrived, there were a couple of people we knew from the past but hadn't seen for years, who made us feel so welcome when we were there. They greeted us, they talked to us about what was going to be involved, and encouraged us at the start, on the way through. One of them ran with us, and then got back and we had a chat about that. And so that was huge, really.
That's amazing.
So that there were people who were willing to champion us along the way, right at the start of that. So park run.
Which one did you do? Which park run did you do?
The one that goes around Heritage Park.
Okay, so the Invermay one. Yeah, cool.
That's right.
That's awesome. You did park run,
mm-hmm.
And now are you a regular park run people now? Still?
I'm a regular park runner, but I've just in exploring a few different types of running. Now I run regularly at Cape Reed. So trail running has become something that I really, really enjoy. So being out in the bush, and this is something that my wife Bronwyn loves as well, because that's her background, doing lots of bushwalking when she was younger. So there's something very special about that.
And do you have these moments now where you think, oh, why didn't I do some bushwalking with Bronwyn?
I've had some regretful moments, but I've sort of thought, well, I can't change any of that.
That's right.
But now, we take opportunities where they come up.
Absolutely. So you're in love with trail running. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah?
Yes.
So are you doing anything outside of parkrun? Or
well, the part of the discovering the parkrun community is that there's a lot of crossover. People who do that also are involved in other running groups. So there's another group that runs on Wednesday nights called the Run Club that starts at the running company. So I'm there. That's it. And also there's the Ultrain group that runs on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Jono and Amy?
Yes. And then there's the Launceston Running Buddies who do Tuesday mornings, and that's it, and Friday mornings. So I spread around a little bit, just depending on work sort of commitments and time, what have you. But that'd be most weeks where I'm involved in one or more of those groups.
That's amazing. So have you found that you've made a bunch of new friends? Like you're spreading yourself around all of these different groups?
Absolutely. And what I find is that some of these guys are really running at the elite level, which I am not, but that's okay. And I feel really welcomed and embraced, knowing that I am not going to achieve at that level, nor am I fazed by that. But being a part of a community is a huge thing, because everyone without exception is encouraging and welcoming and inclusive. And that's a part of the reason that I keep on going back, knowing that there are times when I haven't been for 2 or 3 weeks for some of them, and somebody will say, oh, great to see you back, when you do rock, or when you do rock up again, or where have you been, what's happened in the last little bit. So people are genuinely interested in what's happening. So
isn't that wonderful? I love that. As so many people have said on the podcast, the reason they started running was to get fitter. The reason they keep running is because of the people that they met.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I've taken up doing some harder runs, which surprised me. I thought, but some people said, oh, you're going to do a half marathon. I thought, oh no, that's just beyond. I don't think I'd be able to do that. And yet, I had been able to do that because of just being amongst other people who encourage me to do that, and getting better and with consistent effort. So
do you find, are you goal orientated, do you think?
I'm a sort of person who enjoys structure and goals, yes. So that works really well for me. If I know that there's an event coming up, then that's really helpful for me to put together a strategy and to have other people who've walked that way before, run that way before, giving me some tips to put in place. I find that's really helpful.
I love that. So do you sign up for lots of stuff? How are you, like your events? Obviously, it seems like your week is full with all these running groups. So you're keeping a nice fitness level by the sound of it. What kind of events are you signing up for?
Well, the first one, well, this has been the year of the half marathon, I guess. So I hadn't run anything longer than about 10 Ks up until about a year ago.
Okay.
And so I was encouraged to run Gone Nuts.
Yes.
And I did the 25K Gone Nuts earlier this year. And
was you nuts?
Yeah,
obviously.
That's right. When I did it, I didn't realise what I was getting involved in, and was completely had it at the end, but elated that I had done that.
You are not the only person who have said that on this podcast.
Yeah,
that they didn't know what they were signing up for.
Oh, absolutely. And then I've done some runs around Mount Wellington, a Canungi run, sort of half marathon there. And so the most recent is the triple top. Just this last weekend, which nearly everyone had said, oh, it's huge, it's hard, it's grueling, but you'll love it. And I thought, oh, go figure, how does that work? But it's this crazy irony of having to really push hard, but getting back and just thinking that actually was great after I caught my breath.
That would be my favorite. I've done that about 4 or 5 times. One of my favorite runs. It is, as you said, you go through all of the emotions, I think, in that one journey from across the 3 mountains, not to mention the weather that can get thrown at you, which can be a little crazy up there.
It certainly was.
So well done, because that is that's a big effort, not to mention I know that there are probably a number of people who signed up for that and then didn't turn up because the weather was predicted to be so horrendous. So the fact that you even did, and then I suppose, I don't think it maybe wasn't as bad as they thought it might be, as in the snow didn't settle.
Yes, that's right.
I did hear it still did snow, but it was melting before it hit the ground. Oh. Anyway, well done. That's so impressive. What is it, do you think, about trail running that you have, taken to?
I really enjoy the sights, the sounds, the smells, the fact that I have to be thinking as I'm running as well. You can't sort of just set your mind to go off somewhere else because you're not quite sure where the next step has to be.
True.
So I like the unpredictability of it as well. I like the fact that it's up and down and around, and maybe a little bit of the danger of something that might slither out onto the track.
Get your adrenaline going.
Yeah, those sorts of things. I like it that it's just not plodding along. I like the regular changes
the variance,
of that. And I guess, the unpredictability, particularly this last weekend, I had never run in somewhere almost up to my knees in puddles and getting bogged in all of the mud. And I thought, well, you just don't get that in road running.
That kind of narrow paths where one foot has to be in front of the other. You can't, it's kind of tricky as well. And then the depth, you can't tell the depth when it's so muddy.
Yeah, that's it.
Pick your leg up and there's no shoe on the end of it because it's still in the bottom of the mud.
So, and I guess I get the best of the bushwalking experience that I never had perhaps earlier, because Tasmania is just, we're blessed with amazing landscape, and there's a lot of people who will never experience that. And I don't want to be one of those people who lives here my whole life and then regrets not seeing what we've got on offer. Just in my backyard, so to speak.
There is so many opportunities for trail running here. Like pretty much every bushwalk has a version of a trail run that you could do. Instead of having to camp, you can get up there and back down again.
Absolutely.
In a day. Or you can there is actually a version of trail running where you carry a small tent and things as well. So you can get really heavily into that if you want in the future. I'm sure it could be an interesting adventure for you guys.
That is for sure.
Doing all those things. So what have you got coming up? Have you got any?
The next one is, well, it's not a trail run as such, but it's the Bruni Island Run.
Yeah.
So 64 Ks, but on this occasion, I'll be sharing it with a couple of running mates. So we'll all do about a half marathon length each.
Sweet.
So that's really nice that a couple of these guys don't usually run, so get to be a part of that with them. Yeah. So I'm a bit of a, I try to be a bit of an ambassador for trail running, because I've embraced it and I'm always sharing with others. Come on, you really enjoy this as well. So if I can put it out there, then I'm always happy when I see other people get involved as well.
I love that. I love the Bruni Island Run's fun too. I will see you there.
Oh, great.
I will be there also. I'm looking forward to that one too. So coming back to your regular everyday stuff, what does your training schedules look like? Like, for example, do you always run with people, or do you go out and do some training runs by yourself as well?
I mostly run with people because the motivation from others being around me is important.
Yep.
I love to hear what's happening in their lives, and I get to share myself with them as well. So that's a big thing, which is probably a bit of a change, because as I said early on, I probably would tend to be a bit of a loner, a little more introverted, but I really enjoy this. This has been a bit of a change for me, that I find I maintain motivation by being in a group. Sometimes if I really don't want to go out, then I have a treadmill that's that I get on, and a part of that is that it has a screen and it has events where I can run, so to speak, around the world.
Like the cycling one. I didn't know they had running ones as well. Isn't that silly? I should know that.
Yeah. So there's this program called iFit, and so there's lots of thousands of runs that they've recorded, and it controls your treadmill, and sort of so you get the elevation and speed.
Yeah.
Oh, so I find that helpful if for some reason I can't get out.
Yeah.
So
like some people have tricks of packing up their gear, getting it ready, and they running, especially if they're running first thing in the morning and by themselves. But others have that accountability is a big element for making sure they get out the door on the days where it's a bit harder. That seems like one of the things that works for you, by the sound of it, is that
absolutely
getting out there. Some of those groups are not running on trails, so I suppose it doesn't really matter so much because you're hanging out with them, and it's more about that.
I think whilst I prefer trails, it's good to mix it up. And so in fact, probably most of them don't do trails. The running buddies generally don't, and Mike's group don't, but I usually focus on trying to at least get to the Tuesdays and Thursdays where there is the trail runs, but the other ones I throw in around that.
So I often ask people what they listen to, or if they listen to anything when they're running. If they're running in groups predominantly, they're often not listening to anything. What kind of person are you when it comes to
I'm the sort of person, if I listen to music, then I have to sit and focus on that and just enjoy that. I'm not really a background listening type person. So just being immersed in wherever I happen to be is fine.
I spoke to someone earlier today, and the first time she had ever been for a run with something in her ears was yesterday, and she's run for like 20 years or something, and she said she did not enjoy it at all, because she wasn't, like, she normally runs in the country. She wasn't able to, didn't feel like she was with her body, let alone with the environment. That was kind of distracting. So I think she was listening to something like it wasn't music, it was more like a podcast or something. But I just thought that was interesting, because I do both, but I've always done both. So it's interesting to hear other people's what they do and how they do it. What are you thinking about, Patrick, when you're running? What sort of stuff are you thinking about? Say if you're not chatting with someone, because then often you're thinking about the conversation you're having, but on those quiet times where everyone's puffing to get up a hill or whatever.
Yeah, well, some of the times it is, how am I going to get through this next bit, sort of, because this is really hard work.
Yeah.
My mind wanders quite a bit, so it sort of jumps from different things. So I couldn't give you a specific thing that I focus on. My mind sort of jumps around quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I feel reason if I'm not pushing so hard that it's just thinking, how am I going to get through this next bit? Then my mind's just sort of wandering a little bit, and so I feel quite free when I'm out doing
quite,
that.
Present there in that moment.
Yeah,
kind of stuff, rather than
that's it.
Having to solve all of the problems of the world.
Yeah, I usually manage to put those things aside, when I'm out and about.
Excellent. How long have you been running? So
3 years.
Wow. That's amazing. So how long do you think you'll run for?
I just want to keep on going. I'm inspired when I see the considerably older people than me who are out there doing runs. Particularly, I came across a guy at Triple Tops who wasn't quite sure how old he was, but he's got 10 years on me, and he was really enjoying it. And I see people in their 70s out there, and I thought I'd love to be continuing to go when I see these people doing that, because they clearly enjoy it, getting out there. They see the benefits, and I don't want this to be a flash in the pan. I want this to be a long-term thing, because the benefits are really, really tangible.
I think we've had a few 70-year-olds on the podcast. 70 plus, I should say.
Yes.
I think I sometimes wonder whether starting a bit later is actually an advantageous thing as well, because you haven't worn your knees away and you haven't done all of those things too. So you've also got some people talk about personal bests a bit and things like that. They're all, when you haven't done a 10K yet, or you haven't done a marathon or whatever, it's all a PB. It's amazing. At least for the first little bit, which kind of makes you feel kind of cool. Not that that's necessarily a motivator for you. There's other motivations, I think, for you to continue running rather than personal best and that kind of stuff. What do your children think about you guys suddenly starting to run?
Well, they were a bit surprised because after years of us being on the sideline, watching them play soccer and doing those sorts of things, it was a shock for them to see, I guess, our fitness journey, our emerging into more healthy lifestyle. They've been really encouraged by that, and encouraging to us as well. So they're on the cusp of turning 20 and in their early to mid 20s, and so it's been great that they've been really supportive of us as well. So they have good things to say, and they like seeing this.
Do you reflect on the fact that what you're providing is a really good example for them too? Like to see you guys do that as adults as opposed to, running as children, it sort of adds to their toolbox of things for their future. So, you guys said, well, especially you, maybe not Bronwyn so much, but that, hadn't done any real sport because it hadn't been part of, even something that your dad instilled in you for his reasons, that now, them seeing that their parents are out there doing these things sort of.
Yeah, I mean, we always wanted to be a good example to them in various aspects of life, and have achieved that to a greater or lesser extent. We just hadn't really considered about this being a part of that, that have been surprised that we could be an example to them, even though they've got past their formative years. So I guess we want to be lifelong learners. So I mean, we're late bloomers in this, but we thought, oh well, that's still a possibility that others can be inspired by that. Whatever age we start.
I like that,
including our kids.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I love that it's not you can't miss the boat. I think anybody can start running. I guess that's what because some people think, oh, I'm already 50 or I'm already 60 or whatever. I can't, but you can actually. Like you can go for a run and you don't have to be running, as fast as a 20-year-old. It's got actually the speed has nothing to do with it. It's actually just getting out there and doing a bit more than a walk, getting your heart beat up and all that kind of stuff. So it's when people understand that and the benefits that come from that getting a little bit uncomfortable. It's, literally lifelong stuff. Would you call yourself a runner? Do you call yourself a runner now?
I guess I would. When people ask me, well, what do? I can describe my workplace, but a substantial amount of time is spent in running that I have, sort of discretionary time. So, yeah, I guess that's what I do.
Yeah.
I certainly don't describe myself as an elite runner or anything like that, but I'm a participator and I'm committed to it. So, I probably would share that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So have you had any injuries that have stopped you running for a little while in the last 3 years?
I haven't. I have to say, when I know that there's going to be a really arduous sort of grueling type event, particularly this last one, I would unashamedly say, God, protect my knees, give me strength in my legs, sort of, because when I see these rocks and, very difficult things, then I am aware that, as an older person, that I might be more prone to injury. But thank God I haven't had any significant injuries with that at all. So
have you, touch wood, it won't happen. Have you thought about what you'll do or how you'll think if, say, you have an injury that puts you out for 6 weeks? How will you cope with that?
I would definitely find that a struggle because I must admit I haven't dwelt on that a lot.
Probably
on the thought of the thought of that. But it would be a struggle because there's so many things that I would miss in that I would have to try and think what are some alternatives for me to do in the meantime, so that I can continue to
keep moving,
to be in some way.
So that the coming back is not as challenging as well, I suppose. Yeah. Is there a moment that you've had in a training run or in an event that you can recall that was just amazing, where everything was just running smoothly, that everything was right with the world? You were very present in the moment. Can you recall of any moments like that?
Well, just this last weekend, I loved running across the saddle, sort of on the run, and sort of thinking this is I'm not heaving there to go up or something there, and I'm not running through the bog, and there's just a nice sort of stretch there, and I'm seeing the scenery and the awesomeness of the surrounds, and I'm thinking this is really tremendous, and I love being here. And so happy to have had the opportunity to go there. That so many people haven't had, or the choice or access or what have you. But here I am, and I'm so pleased to be here. So those moments happen for sure.
I think I can remember that moment myself a couple of years ago, the last time I did that race in that same spot. When you've come up some very challenging up bits. I can remember, it's just grateful to be up the top. I did it. So because running's so fresh to you, which it's really cool, because your answers are so visceral, like because you're still really feeling that, the endorphins and things, that when everything is so new and fresh and amazing, and there's new things to learn all the time about yourself, mostly. It's quite, it's lovely to talk to you about it. Where do you think in your life running has made the biggest impact? Like something that if you hadn't started running, you'd be missing that in your life now?
Well, it's a combination. It's a package deal, I guess. So, like I mentioned, my natural tendency is to be a little bit reclusive. So this helps me break out of those natural tendencies, and actually discover that it's worthwhile in pushing to meet new people and get involved in different things. That it's helped me grow personally in that area. It stops me from slipping back into being insular. So that's a big thing. So I would really miss that if it wasn't there.
Expanding that network and getting out of your comfort zone, not just physically, but I guess that's an emotional sort of thing when when you're not that comfortable with necessarily meeting new people initially and letting them in. So that's really cool. I love it. Is there anything about running that you want to share with people that we haven't touched on? As I said before, it's all still quite new to you in many ways. So you're kind of closer to that edge of what it's like when you first get addicted to it. That's probably the word I was looking for before.
Yeah. It comes back to what we've shared already, that the community aspect of that for me has been critical. And again, it's going to be a part of your personality type. I mean, if you're the sort of person who just enjoys running on your own, of course, run on your own and enjoy that, and there'll be benefits, of course, in doing that. But for me, having somebody champion you was really huge, to encourage you in the initial stages where you're just finding your way, wondering whether this is really for me, whether I can grow, whether I can get better. And then having somebody say, give you tips, give you some feedback, give you some encouragement, then that goes a long way to, and you think, yeah, I'm going to keep on trying. Or maybe I'm still unsure, but I'm going to try this for a bit longer. And then it grabs a hold of you, and you develop your own level of self-discipline or your own motivation there that's less linked to that, but still important. So people right at the start.
Yeah, and that flows through to the rest of your life outside of the running as well. I guess they're the things that it's given your life as well.
Well, that's right. I mean, in a workplace role where things are not particularly energetic, I find that feeling better physically, I sleep better, I function better in non-running roles than what I would otherwise do. So I think that there's a good flow-on effect from that. So I really benefit from that, I think.
Have you this is out of curiosity, I suppose, and not really understanding exactly your work, because it's quite technical, I think. Have you tested your lungs and your lung? I'm just thinking about myself many years ago when I'd been running for a few years, and I had smoked previous to that, like for 5 years or something, back when I first knew you, and I had been then running quite heavily for 2 years or so, and I had a lung test and that kind of stuff done, and I had lungs as if I'd never smoked, but I don't know why or anything, but I assume. And so I just wondered, out of curiosity, if you had, a scientist that you are, whether you had tested yourself.
More times than the average person will, just as a part of the quality control things that we do.
Yep.
And I've got lungs that are a little borderline. So I don't know whether this, I hadn't smoked myself, but I'd been exposed, passive exposure from my parents, where it was quite common when I was growing up. They smoked, and smoking in the house, in the car, and all of those sorts of things.
Back in the 80s and the 70s.
Yeah, that's it. So a little less than what I would have hoped.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to stop me. And I think that's the benefit of, I think, even doing parkrun particularly, is you can still benefit by doing these sort of activities, even though your own lungs are not perfect. It doesn't have to stop you. You will still get benefit from doing that. You may not run as fast as other people, but that doesn't matter. You'll still develop increasing fitness and all the other benefits that come, even if things are not perfect.
Do your lungs improve? Like we talked about that at the beginning, really, because about whether they were muscles or not, which you said no, they're not muscles. Does that using them? Oh, you probably answered it earlier, but does it using them improve them a little bit, or it doesn't work like that?
I think overall fitness, everything will function more effectively together.
A big body,
as a whole body system. Yeah. So your lungs will be more effective if you push on and develop overall fitness. Sending
more oxygen and all the other things.
That's the one.
That I know what I'm talking about, because I don't. That's okay. And you'll soon see that. All right. Well, that's cool. Excellent. Have you got any tips? And because again, because you're only been running for 3 years, as I said, you're full of all the enthusiasm and stuff, which is amazing. And it hasn't been that long since you were a beginner. What tips would you, with the reflection, what tips would you give new people coming along who want to start running like you and Bronwyn did?
Well, our experience with Couch to 5K app, I think, if you've got a smartphone and something like that, that's so easy to get you started, because it takes you from complete unfitness through to a point where you can see measurable improvements in yourself, and you have something that guides you, rather than just trying to make it up on the fly yourself. And as I say, structure was helpful for me. So something like that was progressive, and you can say, I actually went further than I did last week, and and I've got a record of that, and I'm improving. So that was really helpful, and dovetailing with that, of course, like we've shared, is getting involved in a running / walking group like Parkrun. I would utterly recommend that 100%, because there are so many of them around that most people will be able to access that. Yeah, and you see the whole range of abilities and speeds there. Getting involved in that will be a huge motivational boost. Yeah. So those two things, I reckon, were pivotal for me and for Bronwyn as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Excellent. Has Bronwyn been doing any of the events you've been doing as well?
She hasn't taken that up in the same way that I have, but she's a regular park runner.
Yeah.
And she loves the community with that. But I'm probably in a different space of where I want to push a bit harder in that area. And she's happy to encourage me in that.
Well, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah. All right. Okay. Patrick, it has been amazing to have a bit of a refresher of what's going on with your life. And awesome that you've joined me in my passion for running. So well done.
Thank you.
Exciting. I know. And we do appreciate that you've spent some time with us on the podcast to share it and hopefully inspire some others to get started, because your enthusiasm has really come through. So I do thank you.
No worries. A pleasure.
Don't go away, because I will say goodbye to you off the call as well. But I'll say goodbye to you now on the call.
No worries.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Mind, Fit Body podcast. I'd love to talk to you about your running journey. So send me a message on Facebook or on the website and let's do it. For a bunch of resources on mindful running that will help you get and stay mentally and physically fit, head over to the website fitmindfitbody.co and I'll see you there. Plus, I'll be back here in your podcast player a few times a week. Hit subscribe now so that you don't miss an episode. And before you go, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a review. It'll help more people to find the podcast and get inspired to start running. I'll see you soon. Bye.